A story by Rolando. Alone with Memories. Maria sat in the dimly lit room, the only sound the soft hum of the clock ticking away the seconds. She stared blankly at the wall, her mind 1,000 miles away, lost in thoughts of Robert. The night was cold, just like her heart, and she couldn't shake the feeling of emptiness that had settled in since he was gone. She remembered the way he used to hold her, the way he would whisper sweet nothings in her ear, and the way he would smile at her. She closed her eyes, and his face appeared in her mind, a bittersweet reminder of what used to be. She felt a pang of pain, a longing to go back to the way things were, but it was just a memory now. I try to move, I try to breathe, but every step still leads to memories, she whispered to herself, the words echoing in her mind. She got up and walked to the window, staring out at the dark sky. The city lights twinkled like stars, but they couldn't compare to the brightness of Robert's smile. She felt a lump form in her throat as she remembered the way he would look at her, with love and adoration in his eyes. "I'm alone with memories of you right next to me," she whispered, her voice barely audible. The memories flooded her mind, of their laughter, their tears, and their promises. She remembered the way he would hold her hand, the way he would kiss her forehead, and the way he would tell her how much he loved her. But it was all gone now, and she was left with nothing but memories. She felt a tear roll down her cheek as she realized that maybe one day she'd be okay, but tonight she was not that brave. She took a deep breath, trying to calm herself down, but it was no use. She was alone with her memories, and they were slowly consuming her. As she stood there, the darkness outside seemed to seep into her soul, and she felt herself getting lost in the emptiness. She whispered one last phrase, "I'm alone with memories of who we used to be," and let the tears flow. He was trying to write a letter to Maria, but the words weren't coming easily.
He wanted to tell her how he felt, how much he missed her, and how empty his days were without her. He took a deep breath and began to write. "My dearest Maria, usually in the morning, I'm filled with a sense of sweet belonging. Even the rain can't dampen my mood, because I know that I'll see you soon. The sound of the raindrops on the roof is like heaven singing, joyful music to my ears. But sometimes, I feel like a sad song, like I'm all alone without you. I walk through the streets, surrounded by so many different places and smiling faces, but they all seem empty without you by my side. Life is incredible to me, especially when I'm near you, and I remember the way it feels to touch you. Paradise was made for you and me, and without you, it's just a hollow shell. I know that life goes on, and everything is just the way it should be, but there are times when my heart feels like breaking, and anywhere is where I'd rather be, as long as you're with me. In the night time, I know it's the right time to hold you close and say I love you, to have someone to share with, and someone I can care with, is a gift, and that's why I wanted you to know. Sometimes, I feel like a sad song, like I'm all alone without you, but I know that as long as I have you, I'll be okay. Yours always, Robert." He put down the pen and read over what he had written. It wasn't perfect, but it was from the heart. He folded the paper, put it in an envelope, and sealed it. He would give it to her soon, and maybe, just maybe, she would know how much he loved her.
Robert sat at the edge of the bed, his eyes fixed on the floor as he held the phone to his ear. The silence between them was deafening, punctuated only by the sound of Maria's gentle breathing on the other end. "Hey," he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. "Hey," she replied, her voice soft but distant. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of their unspoken words hanging in the air. "I miss you," Robert said, his voice cracking. "Hey," he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. "Hey," she replied, her voice soft but distant. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of their unspoken words hanging in the air. "I miss you," Robert said, his voice cracking. "I miss you too," Maria replied, her voice tinged with sadness. The words hung in the air, a bittersweet reminder of what they had lost. Robert closed his eyes, and memories flooded his mind. Memories of laughter, of tears, of whispered promises. "I remember the way we were," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "The way we loved, the way we lived." "I know," Maria said, her voice cracking. "I remember too." Robert's eyes welled up with tears as he recalled the poem she had shared with him, the one about memories lighting the corners of their minds. "Memories light the corners of my mind," he whispered, his voice trembling. Misty watercolored pictures, a bittersweet find. Maria's breath caught on the other end of the line. "You remember?" she whispered. "I remember everything," Robert said, his voice breaking. "The way we were, the way we loved, it's all still here, etched in my mind like a memory." The silence between them was palpable, a living, breathing thing that seemed to suffocate them both. "What are we doing, Maria?" Robert asked finally, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know," she replied, her voice cracking. "I just know I need some time, some space." Robert nodded, even though he knew she couldn't see him. "I understand," he said, his voice numb. "I'll wait for you, always." The line went silent, and Robert knew that she was gone, at least for now. He sat there, frozen, the phone still clenched in his hand, as the memories washed over him like waves on a shore. Robert sat there, the phone still clenched in his hand, as the memories washed over him like waves on a shore. He repeated the words to himself, letting them sink in. "It's not how long we held each other's hands. What matters is how well we loved each other." He thought back to the times they had shared, the laughter, the tears, the quiet moments in between. It wasn't about the duration of their time together, but the depth of their love. As he sat there, he felt a sense of peace wash over him. Maybe they weren't perfect. Maybe they didn't have it all figured out, but they had loved each other, truly and deeply. He remembered the way Maria used to smile at him, the way her eyes sparkled when she laughed. He remembered the way she made him feel, like he was home. "It's not how far we traveled on our way, or what we found to stay," he whispered to himself. He thought about the times they had been apart, the distance between them, but it didn't matter. What mattered was the love they shared, the connection they had. "It's not the spring we've seen, but all the shades of green," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. He smiled, remembering the way Maria loved nature, the way she would stop and smell the flowers. She always saw the beauty in the world, even when he couldn't. "It's not how long I held you in my arms. What matters is how sweet the years together," he whispered. He closed his eyes, letting the memories wash over him. The good times, the bad times, the moments in between. It was all worth it. Every single moment. As he sat there, he felt a sense of acceptance, a sense of peace. He knew that no matter what happened, they had loved each other, truly and deeply. "What matters most is that we loved at all," he said, his voice filled with conviction. He took a deep breath, letting the words sink in. He knew that he would always love her, no matter what. And that was enough. Robert's eyes snapped open, and he gazed out the window, watching as the first light of dawn crept into the sky. The words of the song echoed in his mind, resonating with the emotions that had been swirling inside him since Maria left. He thought back to the nights they had spent talking, laughing, and loving each other, and how it had all seemed so effortless. But the reality was, they had been struggling to make it work, to find a way to communicate, to bridge the gaps between them. He got up and walked to the window, feeling the cool morning air on his skin. He knew they had been trying to solve their problems, but it seemed like they were getting further apart instead of closer. The words of the song kept playing in his mind. Ain't no time for sleeping if our love is wearing thin. Don't let our love start slipping. Love starts slipping away. He felt a surge of determination. He wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. He wanted to fight for their love, to find a way to make it work. He picked up the phone and dialed Maria's number, his heart racing with anticipation. The phone rang, and he waited, his breath held, for her to answer. "Hey," she said, her voice soft and sleepy. "Hey," he replied, his voice filled with emotion. "I heard the song, and it made me think of us. We're not giving up, Maria. We're not letting our love slip away." There was a pause, and for a moment, Robert wondered if he had misread the situation. But then she spoke, her voice filled with a hint of hope. "No, we're not," she said. "Let's find a way to hold on." Maria struggles what to make of her love to Robert. After a week, decided to call him. Maria's voice trembled as she spoke the words, the emotions pouring out of her like a pent-up dam. Robert's heart skipped a beat as he listened, his eyes closing in a mix of longing and relief. "Don't give your love away," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Wait for me. I'll come to you, and we'll have 1,000 days of May." Robert's grip on the phone tightened, his mind racing with the promise of her words. A week had passed since their last conversation, and he had been struggling to keep his emotions in check. But now, hearing her voice, hearing her say she was coming back to him, it was like a weight had been lifted off his chest. "I won't," he whispered back, his voice filled with conviction. "I'll wait for you, always." Maria's breathing was soft on the other end, a gentle sigh that spoke volumes. "I kiss your smiles away," she said, her voice cracking. "I know waiting will be hard for you, but I wish I could do more than say, 'Don't give your love away.'" Robert's eyes welled up with tears as he listened to her words, the poem she had sent him earlier, echoing in his mind. He remembered the way she had struggled to express her feelings, the way she had poured her heart out to him. "Our longest day will be when I remember today," she whispered. "And I wonder if you'll be there, if the years haven't touched our love affair." Robert's voice was barely above a whisper when he replied, "I'll be here, always. Still moments speak for me. Words are much too weak for me." The line went silent, but the connection between them was palpable. A thread of love and longing that stretched across the distance. "Still, I wish I could do more than say, 'Don't give your love away,'" Maria whispered, her voice fading into the silence. Robert smiled, his heart full of love and hope. "You don't have to," he said, his voice filled with conviction. "I know, Maria, I know." Robert sat in the dimly lit room, the phone still clenched in his hand, the sound of Maria's voice echoing in his mind. He closed his eyes, and memories flooded his senses, memories of walking hand in hand with her along the avenue, their hearts carefree and gay. He remembered the way the sunlight danced through the trees, casting dappled shadows on the sidewalk. He remembered the way Maria would laugh, her eyes sparkling with joy, her smile infectious. They would stroll, taking their time, enjoying each other's company, with no worries, no cares. The friends they used to know would always smile and say hello, their faces filled with genuine warmth. "No love like your love," they'd say, and Robert would beam with pride, knowing he had found his soulmate. But life had taken its toll, and they had lost their way. Love had slipped through their fingers, somewhere along the way. Robert's eyes opened, and he gazed out the window, the city lights twinkling like stars. He should forget, he thought, but the loneliness of the night had a way of creeping in, and he found himself remembering everything. The way Maria used to smile, the way she used to touch his hand, the way she made him feel like he was home. He got up and walked to the window, the cool glass a comfort to his skin. He looked out, searching for her, his heart aching with longing. Somewhere along the avenue, he thought, she was out there, and he would find her. The words of the song echoed in his mind. I should forget, but with the loneliness of night, I start remembering everything. He knew he wouldn't forget, couldn't forget, not as long as his heart still beat. As he stood there, lost in thought, he felt a sense of determination. He would find her, he would make things right, and they would walk hand in hand along the avenue once more. The phone in his hand seemed to vibrate with promise, and he knew that he would hold on to hope, that someday soon he would find her, somewhere along the way.
After days of soul-searching, Maria stood at the edge of her decision, her heart heavy with the weight of her thoughts. She had been trying to convince herself that she was doing the right thing, that she needed space, that she needed time to figure things out. But the truth was, she was lost without Robert. She missed his smile, his laugh, his touch. She missed the way he made her feel, like she was home. She missed the way he looked at her, like she was the only person in the world. She missed the way he loved her, with a fierceness and a gentleness that she had never experienced before. As she walked along the beach, the waves washing over her feet, she knew that she couldn't stay away from Robert any longer. She needed to be with him, to feel his love, to be his partner, his friend, his everything. She thought back to the memories they had made together, the laughter, the tears, the quiet moments in between. She remembered the way Robert had looked at her when she was feeling down, the way he had held her hand when she was scared, the way he had kissed her goodnight, every night. She knew that she had been foolish to think that she could just walk away from him, from them. She knew that she had been scared, scared of the depth of her feelings, scared of the vulnerability that came with loving someone so deeply. But as she stood there, the sun setting behind her, she knew that she was ready to face those fears, to take the risk, to love Robert with all her heart. She took a deep breath and began to walk towards the phone, her heart pounding in her chest. She dialed Robert's number, her hand trembling as she waited for him to answer. When he picked up, she took a deep breath and let the words spill out. "Don't give your love away. Wait for me. I'll come to you, and we'll have 1,000 days of May." The sky was ablaze with hues of orange, pink, and purple as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the beach. Robert and Maria sat side by side, their toes curled into the cool sand, watching the waves lap gently at the shore. Robert turned to Maria, his eyes locking onto hers, and took her hand in his. "I always thought you were the best," he said, his voice low and sincere. "I guess I always will." Maria's eyes sparkled with unshed tears as she smiled, her gaze never leaving his. "I feel the same way about you," she whispered. The words hung in the air, suspended in the warm evening air as they gazed out at the sea. Robert's thumb brushed against her palm, sending shivers down his spine. "We've been through so much, haven't we?" he said, his voice filled with emotion. "Sometimes we took the hard road, but we always saw it through." Maria nodded, her eyes shining with a mix of sadness and joy. "We did," she said, "and I'm grateful for that." Robert's heart swelled with love and appreciation for this woman beside him. "If I had only one friend left, I'd want it to be you," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. The words seemed to echo across the waves, a promise, a vow, a declaration of love and devotion. Maria's face crumbled, and she leaned into him, her arms wrapping around his waist. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, her voice muffled against his chest. "I'm so sorry for everything." Robert held her close, his heart overflowing with love. "Don't be," he said. "We're here, now. That's all that matters." Stars began to twinkle in the night sky. Robert and Maria sat together, wrapped in each other's arms, watching the sunset fade into the darkness, knowing that their love would endure no matter what.
I always thought you were the best. I guess I always will. I always felt that we were blessed, and I feel that way still. Sometimes we took the hard road, but we always saw it through. If I had only one friend left, I'd want it to be you. Sometimes the world was on our side, sometimes it was unfair, sometimes it gave a helping hand, sometimes we didn't care. 'Cause when we were together, it made the dream come